Let's get started. So we were learning last time a story of the previous Rebbe, when his father introduced him to working for the community. He brought him to the ohel of his father and his grandfather, and he said to him that he's going to make with him a covenant, making with him a pact that, and then he said to him that it says Chagra ba'oz masna, that she girds her loins with strength. The Jewish people are called Hashem's wife, and the Torah says about a Jewish wife that she girds her loins with strength. So he explained to his son in the ohel, talking to his son in front of his father and grandfather's grave, and saying to his son that he's going to make this covenant with him, that he has to have sacrifice to spread Torah and Yiddishkeit. And he said to him that strength is mesiras nefesh. Strength is sacrifice. And what does sacrifice mean? Sacrifice means this is the way it has to be. It can't be any other way. Sacrifice means it has to be this way. It can't be any other way. That's the meaning of the word sacrifice. In other words, sacrifice doesn't mean that you actually do something that challenges your health or you lose money or whatever. Sacrifice means that you say there can't be any other way. That's the meaning of sacrifice. We're learning a similar theme in the Mimer last night from Yud Bais Taamuz Yud Aleph. In that Mimer, the Rebbe makes a distinction between the way we engage with the world in general and the way Hashem gives us tests, the way Hashem gives us an assign, challenges. We said that in general, when a person has to engage in the physical world, eating, drinking, there's always a spark of Hashem that's there. And the spark of Hashem is something that you could look for. There's a spark of Hashem, let's say, in looking at the hamburger. I can't look at a hamburger because the screen is off, but you're looking at a hamburger, and you're seeing that this is enjoyable. And this needs more ketchup, needs more relish, right? You're looking at it, and then you're also remembering that this is a spark of Hashem in it, and Hashem giving this to me for a reason. There's a purpose, and the purpose of the whole creation. And you're able to look at this physical thing and say, this has a purpose. This is supposed to go somewhere. That's when you're not being challenged. That's just a natural struggle that you have between your human reaction to its enjoyment, to your mind's understanding that this is meant for something. There was a chassid of the Rashab, I think it was Rabbi Peretz Chaim, Dov Tzvi, maybe Dov Tzvi. Whenever he would eat, forcing a bracha like this. So the previous Rebbe asked him, as a child, he saw him do this. What is this? He said, the Rebbe Rashab told me when I was a child, before you put anything in your mouth, you should think about the one by whose word the world came to exist. Baruch Misha Amar V'Hayolam, think about him before you put anything in your mouth. So when he's used to thinking, I guess he went like this all the time. Anyways, so in order to engage with the word properly, the Torah says you should daven first. You can't eat before you daven. Of course, our custom is different, but that's just in order to give us strength to daven. But in generally, you're not supposed to do business before you daven. You're supposed to engage with the world before you daven. Why not? Because in order to have the strength to engage with the world, you have to open up your neshama first. The Gemara says, "Be aware of the person whose soul is in his nostrils, because what importance does he have?" That's what the pasuk says. The Talmud explains, beware the person whose soul is in his nostrils. He's considered like an altar for idolatry. He's considered like an altar for Avodah Zarah. His soul is in his nostrils. Arizal says, before you daven, your neshama isn't revealed in your body. It stays, so to speak, like it's there, but it's not connecting at all with your reality. When you daven, that's when your neshama is able to emerge and to fill your heart and your mind and your action. That's what davening is meant to do. It was to unpack your neshama. Different parts of davening meant to impact different parts of the neshama. So in order to engage with the world in the proper way, you have to daven first. So davening helps us engage with the world in the right way, to assess when we look at something, what is it really about? That's what davening meant to do. Rebbe Rashab once said, his expression of Chassidus, seeing Hashem clearly. Seeing Hashem clearly. Seeing El Kusam Uchash. Want to get the door? Thank you. Rebbe Rashab said that I think when a person davens on Shabbos, and after davening, he walks outside and he's inspired, he says, that's seeing Hashem clearly. That's what Rebbe Rashab said. You walk outside after Shabbos davening, you feel inspired, that's seeing Hashem clearly. But so in other words, when you're still inspired after davening, engaged in the world, that's a vivid connection to Hashem. Raftam, go right now. You're davening now. You're going somewhere else. Zacharava, Ferguson today. Rafti. So the davening is meant to give us strength to engage with the world. So that we shouldn't engage the world the way our body reacts to things in the world. We should engage with our mind, engage with our heart. That's the purpose of the davening. That's when you're talking about a regular challenge. A regular challenge, you need an neshama to be the yardstick to figure out how to measure what the physical experience is meant to be about. That's with a regular thing. But when there's a challenge, when there's an asayin, so this says that what the challenge does is that it takes away all the light of the divine spark. In a situation of challenge, there's nothing to hold on to. There's nothing to see. Let's say for an addict, someone who's addicted to alcohol. So when he sees a bottle of vodka, he sees it differently to a person who looks at a bottle of vodka and could use it for a good reason or for a bad reason. A person not an addict, the bottle of vodka, you can say, okay, what is this meant for? It's not meant for now, it's meant for a fabrengen. It's meant for a little l'chaim by a fabrengen. That's what a regular person, and he may come to the fabrengen and say, I'm going to have some, he may not use it the right way he's supposed to. Because it's a challenge, because he enjoys it. Okay, it's a regular person. So there's a back and forth. There's a discussion. I should have some, I shouldn't have too much. For an addict, when he walks into a room, there's a bottle of vodka there, the whole room is orbiting around the bottle of vodka. All he sees is the bottle of vodka. That's all he sees. That's all, the whole room is around that. So he can't say, well, this is a good thing for some people sometimes. He's already, he's looking at it incorrectly. This thing is a challenge for him. This thing is something which is poison for him. He can try to figure out what its usage is for, what its benefit is. Because this is, for him, all there is black. For him, all there is darkness. In order for him to be able to overcome this challenge, there's only one thing he could do. That is to reach within himself. He has to say to himself, the only thing, one thing I could do, and one thing I can do is to say no and move away from this. That's the only thing. There's no other choice. There's no other choice. That's the way to overcome a challenge, is by if to search within yourself. You can't overcome a challenge that Hashem gives you by dealing with using your mind, using your heart, using your davening. In the language of the Maimer, the previous Rebbe, the Rebbe quotes, "Bittul atzmi, toikaf atzmi," the strength that comes from your core. What's the strength that comes from your core? You say there's no other way. There's no other way. That's ois. That's the strength that the Rebbe Rashab told the previous Rebbe about in the oil when he pointed him to become a leader of the Jewish people. He says you have to have strength. And what is strength? Strength is sacrifice. What is sacrifice? This is the way it has to be. It can't be any other way. That's the meaning of Mesiras Nefesh. So this was all an introduction to the Rebbe speaking to us about our approach to helping the Jews get closer to Hashem. It's possible that you use your mind, and you need to use your mind only when you try to engage someone in keeping it to Torah in a better way than they are, and you want to help them. So you have to assess where they are, and you have to think out what I'm able to give them. But in order to assess them properly, there has to be a step before. Let's say the preparation. Just like by the previous Rebbe, before he became a leader of the Jewish people, before he was engaged in the community, he had to have this paradigm. This is the way it has to be. It can't be any other way. So in a similar way, we try to engage with someone that you've just met and you want to help them. You could approach it, well, I'm happy to meet this person. I'll give them 5 minutes, Let's see what happens. Let's see what they're able to handle. That's one way. Other way is that you say to yourself, this has to be this way. I have to help them. I have to help this person. It's a different approach. When you're approaching it with that way, with strength, you go with strength, you go with power, then your mind works differently. Your ability to think of the right idea of how to relate to this person depends on how much you care to relate to this person. If you're only going to relate to this person because it's convenient and you have some time, you're not going to find the right words. If you approach them with a sense of sacrifice that has to be this way, then your mind will open up to find the right words and you'll be able to engage in the right way. That's what the Rebbe Rashab said, that if to serve Hashem kifi harotzi means the desired way. And the Rebbe explains the word desire is very relevant over here. If your desire is in the right place, then you'll figure out the right ideas of how to present Judaism to this person. If you really want to. As you're learning a few weeks ago, that there is learning a few weeks ago how our emotions govern our words and our actions, and our emotions are governed by our intellect, and our intellect is governed by our desire. But what governs our desire? What makes us want the right things? That's something which we in ourselves, in our very core, to say, this is what I want. What makes us want the right thing is something which has to do deep within ourselves. That's the approach there has to be to this service of Hashem, to summon Toikafatzin Bitalatzman. I saw a letter to the Rebbe last night. I think it was just published, actually, with an answer to the Rebbe. Somebody wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and they apparently wrote it with the wrong tune. They wrote it with a little bit, they're too sad about their situation. And I'm going to paraphrase from the Hebrew Rebbe's response. I was really shocked about the mood in your letter, in this letter. When you were in Russia, you believed with simple faith that you have to do something, and God gave you success, and God will give you success to raise your children and to raise the army of Hashem. And you saw it actually happen. You believed simple faith, I got to do, Hashem will help. I'm going to raise children in the middle of Soviet Russia, and they're going to keep there. And specifically here in America. And a few days before Yud Bais Taamuz, you say, everything is, quote, I was quoting from his letter, you say, Akol b'sakona, everything is in danger, and the situation causes heartache. Want to get that door? Someone's still there. The situation causes great heartache, etc., etc. So the Rebbe says, Harei yish ba'al bayis abirazu. I think it's quoting his letter as well. There is a master to this world. And not just there is a master, but there's a master which is openly revealed to our eyes. In the institutions and all the affairs of the Bala Geula, of the previous Rebbe, who were celebrating his day of redemption on Yud Bais Taamuz. So, let's machter. So, the
I'm really getting over it. We're trying to so it's not that we're trying to get away from our own logic explanation and mental. I get
we're talking about our approach to things.
Because someone told me today, yesterday, outlining all the missions of the Rebbe, based on the Hayom of Seder. Excuse me, they were ordered. So it seems like right now, it's almost like this was the moment where the previous Rebbe was given his mission of the Seder to spread that for the Jewish people. Like this, right? It's not, and when he's at the Ohio,
right,
the Rebbe shop,
right.
Was that one was charged with that mission?
Mission of Seder?
No, of his mission of mysterious nefesh. That's all he's going to do.
Yeah, but it wasn't about mysterious nefesh. It was about spreading Yiddishkeit. It's about saving the Torah.
How is he doing it?
How is he doing it? Right.
Some are, Shem Tov, everyone's sleeping. Wake up, This is I like the paper with Frank, teach an American child holocaust instead of for the Ilah.
Right.
So then we're supposed to take from the Greek forever part of it.
So what are we supposed to take? So that's the thing. What we're supposed to take is that our approach towards spreading Torah has to be that I really care about this, that this matters to me. I'm ready to go in serious nefesh for this. That's the approach. It may be. What do you mean? Understand?
Well, if I care about Torah, I'm going to sit. I'm going to learn a minor.
Oh, so Baal Shem Tov taught that love of Hashem, love of Torah, love of Yidden is all one love. It's all one love. But specifically, we're talking about spreading Torah to other people, and that's what the previous Rebbe's mission was in Russia, to spread Torah, to save the Torah. It wasn't about sacrifice. Sacrifice is just a tool. It wasn't like Rabbi Akiva who was looking for sacrifice. Sacrifice was needed, and they was saying to us that although we're in America and you don't have to have the same, there's no obvious need for sacrifice, but our approach to everything has to be with sacrifice. As everybody used the expression in the letter once, sacrifice with comfort. There should be sacrifice, but things should be comfortable. David drew from chapter 25 in Tanya. Chapter 25 in Tanya, the author asks, how come Hashem commanded us through Moshe Rabbeinu to say Shema twice a day? It seems that the reason why Hashem commanded us to say Shema was in order that we should remember to sacrifice ourselves to Hashem. We're ready to die for the sake of Hashem's name, not to separate ourselves from Hashem. And the mitzvah was given specifically to the generation entering Israel. So it seems, why did they have to have this sense of sacrifice? Because they were the ones who were going to have to fight a war. Since they're not going to have to fight a war, so before going into war, they had to be ready to die. That's what it would seem, the purpose of saying Shema is. But the Alter Rebbe says that there was no need for sacrifice in that war. Hashem promised them that they will fear you. They'll be afraid of you. They will fall before you. There'll be miraculous victories. No one's going to die. You're going to fight against these 31 kings, and that's nothing going to happen. So no one has to put their life on the line, because Hashem says it's all going to, no one's going to die. Hashem is promising you. So then why do you need to have sacrifice? What's the sacrifice for? Says the Alter Rebbe, it's actually very connected to the parsha we just read. Your fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs depends upon your always being set in your heart and mind. Your ability to give yourself to Hashem. It should be set in your heart day and night. You should never leave your memory. You should always think, I'm ready to give my life to Hashem. Why? It says, because Alter Rebbe says, in order to overcome the Yetzer Hara, your inner to overcome the different armies you have to encounter in Eretz Yisrael, you need to have any sacrifice. But to encounter your own inner demons, your own struggles, for that you have to have Mesiras Nefesh. You have to think, I'm ready to give my life rather than sever my bond with Hashem. How much more so am I ready to give away my sleep and my health or whatever it may be, in order to connect, not to lose my bond with Hashem or to connect with Hashem in a deeper way. If I'm ready to give away my life, how much more so should I be ready to give away my other things? That's the Alter Rebbe says. That's why it's Karev Elechav Darim. That's why it's very close for every Jew to keep the Torah, because every Jew is ready to give his life. So if we would realize, we feel we're sensitive to the disconnect that happens to the neshama every time an Aveira is done Chas V'Shalom, we'll be aware of the connection that happens through a mitzvah. So we never do an Aveira. That's the Alter Rebbe says the meditation we need to have. We have a foolish misconception to think that only when we bow down to an idol do we really separate ourselves from Hashem. So just before we go back to this point that we're saying over here, one interesting thing that the author mentions there in Tanya is Moshe Rabbeinu. He's talking about a mitzvah. Whenever he quotes the Torah, he doesn't say Moshe Rabbeinu. He just says, the Torah says. Here, when he says the mitzvah of Shema, he mentions Moshe Rabbeinu. Similar thing is in this Torah portion we just read. It says they should bring the Parah Aduma to Moshe. Why should they bring it to Moshe? The one who does the Parah Aduma is Aaron. He's a Kohen Gadol. He's the one that does the whole mitzvah of Elazar. Elazar Kohen Gadol. Why should they bring the Parah Aduma to Moshe? And the answer is because Moshe Rabbeinu, as we learned in Tanya last week, Moshe Rabbeinu encapsulates the Chachmei law of Atzilus. He encapsulates the truth, which is the deepest part of every Jew. Everyone comes from this place of Atzilus called Chachmei law, Where there, Chachmei Law, it's revealed how Hashem is alone and nothing besides. And that's what Chachmei Law is about. Everyone has that. That's where we come from. But Moshe Rabbeinu, even in this world, he expresses that truth. His whole being is the existence of Hashem. The whole being of Moshe Rabbeinu in this world is there's nothing besides Hashem. So in order for a Jew to overcome the various challenges he has in his life, it's because of his connection to Moshe Rabbeinu. In other words, Mesiras Nefesh is something we have in our very core, but it helps to be connected to Moshe Rabbeinu to summon that core. Because Moshe Rabbeinu he has that in a revealed, obvious way all the time. A regular person doesn't summon that sense of sacrifice unless he's being challenged, either bow down to an idol or be killed. Otherwise, you're not really conscious of that, of your very deepest self and what you care about. So getting back to our subject. So we're talking about reaching out to other Jews. And we're saying that you could approach other Jews with your mind and heart, etc. But if you really want to approach things the way you're meant to, you have to approach things with a sense of Mesiras Nefesh. What does Mesiras Nefesh mean? Mesiras Nefesh means that you say to yourself, it has to be this way. It has to be this way. I have to be successful in reaching this person. Doesn't mean that you're going to kill the other person to kill yourself. Although the previous Rebbe said that when someone gets upset at you, that means that your words are actually touching them. So it doesn't mean that you have to, but what it does mean is that there's a certain strength in you that this matters. That someone asks you, I need to put on film, and then they say, well, where are you right now? I'm in downtown. Oh, you're in downtown. Is your reaction, well, I gotta get this guy for his film? Everything has to stop. He's doesn't care about his film. Why should I care about his film? So that there's an app, you go to WRAPP. There's an app you put on. You heard of this app? No, it's a great app. It's an app that connects people who want film and people who have film. So you could go on this app and you'll see on your app there's someone who's 2 miles away and needs a film, or 4 miles. Depends how many miles you're interested in knowing. And so I'm saying, so it's possible. Yeah, this guy should put on film. I'm going to help him to find directions. Help find directions using your mind. Okay, so there's a Chabad center in USC. There's a Chabad center in downtown. Here's their number. I'm not going to anyone Chabad. Is there? Can you bring me pretzel? The conversations changed, right? So the Rebbe is saying that our approach to spreading Yiddishkeit has to be with the sense of sacrifice. Just like the previous Rebbe he was introduced to the service with sacrifice. That's how our approach has to be. But what was quoting this letter was this letter that they just published this responsive letter. The Rebbe's response to someone who had written to the Rebbe in a very dramatic tones about how things are terrible. And the Rebbe is telling this guy that when you were in Russia, you believed sincerely, simply, that you have to just do, and Hashem will give you success, and you'll be able to raise your children the way they need to be. And specifically, the days before Yud Bais Taamuz, everything's in danger, and you feel you have heartache. So the Rebbe says there is a master of this world, and the master of this world is open to our eyes, and we could see him in the institutions and all the matters of the previous Rebbe. I think what the Rebbe is saying to this person is similar to what we're talking about. We're talking about our approach. Our approach has to be, there has to be this way. Not just I have to do things this way. It's that Hashem wants this to happen. In other words, it says in Hayom Yom it says that the Jewish people aren't just called servants of Hashem, they're called soldiers. Soldiers mean that they have sacrifice. Where does sacrifice come from? They believe in Geula. The Jewish people, when they were Mitzrayim, they believed that Hashem would help them. So in a similar way, when you approach a Jew with Torah mitzvahs, what animates your sense of sacrifice is that Hashem is going to help make this happen. It's not just about you vis-a-vis yourself, how far are you going to go? That what motivates the sacrifice is that you believe that the Eibishter wants this to happen and he's going to make it work. There can't be any other way. This guy has to get help. It must be here for a reason. Hashem has put me here. Here. And we discussed many times the difference between the approach of Hasidus and the approach of other streams of Judaism. A soldier can learn how to throw a grenade and how to jump and how to roll and how to do everything the soldier needs to do. But one thing the soldier doesn't know, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. That kind of soldier is a weak soldier. So Rebbe is telling this guy in this letter that it's not sufficient write. He writes to Rebbe, everything's in danger. Help me, help me, help me. The Rebbe says, dude, where is your sense that the Eibishter? Where's your sense of Yud Bais Taamuz? Yud Bais Taamuz proved openly, demonstrated how the Eibishter gave the previous Rebbe success against unsurmountable odds. Look at the Rebbe. The Rebbe concludes. Look at the letter of the 15th of Tammuz in Tafresh Beches. As we prepare for the day of the Geula, everyone should strengthen their hearts to add courage to do what they need to do. Where's the courage? That's what I was telling you. Strengthen your heart. Where's the courage? My great grandfather, Yisrael Nevler, he had a student named Meir Itkin, Al Shalom. He told me a following incident that happened with him. He said that one time, if it wasn't him, it was another kid in the class. One time he sees another kid in the class carrying glasses to sell in the marketplace. And selling glasses was a black market. The black market was a mitzvah in those days because everything the government regulated was impossible to survive just the regular way. Anyways, everyone was selling things illegally in Russia at that time, in Stalin's Soviet Russia. So this boy was taking some cups, some glass cups to sell, and he dropped a cup on the way. And my great grandfather saw it. He saw the boy start to cry. You're not going to get this, but I'll tell it to you anyways. So my great grandfather says to the boy, pick up another cup. Just pick up the cup. Throw it on the floor. He says, what? On the floor. His parents be so upset that he broke one cup. Why should you break another cup? But his teacher, he's also very imposing. You see his picture. He's a very imposing person. Like you can't like ignore him. Like just throw it on the floor. So he throws on the floor. But Meir Itkin told me a story. He said he wanted this boy not to be so timid, not to be so mitarsimo, milarza, not to be so scared, not to be so. That's what Rebbe wants to tell this guy. This guy is writing to Rebbe. He's writing to Rebbe, honest, the way he sees things on the ground. Things are dangerous. Things are so bad. Like, strengthen your heart. Where's the courage? That's what I'm saying. Where's the courage? Look at the days. These are days of redemption. These are days of Geula. That's where the approach has to be to helping another Jew come closer to Hashem. It has to be with a sense of Geula, a sense of victory. I'm just finish the last paragraph that we started on Friday. When you approach the service of spreading Yiddishkeit with this sense of strength, which is in one line, this is the way it has to be. It can't be any other way. As Rebbe Hashem said, then Hashem reveals to you all the difficulties you had no substance, just like it was when Abraham brought Yitzchak to the Akedah. Hashem said to Abraham, I told you to bring him up to the Akedah, and then Hashem said, now bring him down, right? I didn't tell you to shecht him, I just said, bring him up. You brought him up, we're done. It was revealed that the whole challenge, the whole impossible thing that Hashem was telling him to do, disappeared. And what happened instead? Hashem promised Avraham Yitzchak's seed will increase and he'll have many children. And then Yitzchak gave a bracha to his son. The bracha we said last night, the bracha of Yitzchak, you should be blessed from the dew of heaven, the fat of the earth, in the physical sense, in the spiritual sense, as it says in the Talmud, that the dew of the heaven and the fat of the earth refers to the Mikra and the Mishnah. And so too is this true for all those who go in the path, or walk in the footsteps of the previous Rebbe. It says in the Talmud, just like Jacob's children are alive, so too is Jacob alive. When you go according to the instructions and according to the paths, and those items that the previous Rebbe had sacrificed for, so much so you draw upon yourself all the items of the previous Rebbe, all the things about the previous Rebbe. And not only do you draw the items, the things of the previous Rebbe, you draw him himself into your work because he put his whole being in his work. As a similar, the Gemara says when you quote a Talmud Chacham, that Talmud Chacham is saying those same words with you in his grave. Whenever you quote someone, the Talmud, the Gemara says, he's saying those words with you when you quote him. So you say, Abaye said, Abaye is speaking. So if you're involved in the matters of the previous Rebbe, so you're drawing himself, the previous Rebbe himself, into what you're doing. And you have success to do your mission that Hashem has given you to spread the Yiddishkeit, to spread the Chassidus to the outside. And it's done in a way that Hashem blesses you from the dew of the heaven and the fat of the earth, physically and spiritually. And just like the previous Rebbe was introduced, we're discussing, I was introduced to help the Jewish people, both physically and spiritually. And it says in the Torah that Hashem tells every Jew, open your mouth wide. We're going to say this in Haidu in a moment. When we begin davening, Hashem says, open your mouth wide, and I will fulfill whatever you're asking me to do. So this refers to being comfortable in all matters of life, including an understanding of Torah. As the Talmud, the Gemara explains, when it says in the Torah, open your mouth wide, it's referring to the words of Torah. As the commentaries of Tanakh say, and also as Rashi says, open your mouth wide in a simple sense. You ask Hashem for stuff. So when you engage yourself in the previous Rebbe's work with a sense of victory, so then the previous Rebbe himself to be involved in what you're doing, and then Hashem says to you, open your mouth wide, and I'll give you whatever you're asking. And all whole taivas libcha, all the desires of your heart, from the highest kinds of desires to the lowest, you merit to have comfort in the dew of the heaven, to the fat of the earth, with lots of grain and oil, grain and wine, with children and health and comfortable pranas. L'chaim. Doesn't say Tesla, but some that's included. L'chaim, l'chaim. Hopefully, I don't know the end. That's the only part of the story you told me.